Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to talk acquisitions with one of the main guys in the business, Mr. Moran. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're doing a YouTube search on acquisitions or a web search, you're going to see this guy's face pretty much everywhere. So, Moran, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, to be short, I'm right now the founder and CEO of acquisitions.com. We are a community of M&A entrepreneurs and investors, and we really try to build the full ecosystem for everyone who want to be in that space.
Yeah. And where are you located right now? Where's home?
So, I'm originally from Israel, but right now I'm in Cyprus, a small island in Europe.
Very cool. All right. So take us back, to how you got your start in this. Did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be in acquisitions, or kind of it became a journey? So give us your story.
Yeah. So, I became an entrepreneur probably when I was 16 or 17 years old, selling flowers in the street, right? So I made pretty good money for someone who's 16, 17 years old. Um, Literally just having people selling flowers on the street with me and for me, and me also doing that. Now, by the age of 18, I had to go to the military in Israel for 3 years. That's the first time I realized I didn't really have a business. I had a job inside of a business. And if I'm not in that job, there is no business. So that was probably my first lesson. I had to go to the military for 3 years. And after that, like I I'm an entrepreneur from the day I remember myself. I tried to work at like two different jobs and I got fired pretty fast. One is a bartender and one is whatever random thing, which led me to become an entrepreneur. Now, I started after the military buying domains and putting just random content on them, ranking them pretty fast and selling them. So that you can say is my first quote unquote acquisitions, but it's not really, it's not really a company that I sold, but it's just random assets that I created really fast. It was pretty beautiful. You could rank websites on Google with like 5 articles on a website from someone from the Philippines who wrote them to you, and you could put different products or offers or advertising and make pretty good money. So that's how I started. Now that led me to kind of like building the momentum to build my network around entrepreneurs, which led me to almost accidentally buying an app company, right? So I didn't really know what are acquisitions at this point, but I met someone that had an app agency company, call it, and he had basically he was creating different apps. So he didn't want to do it anymore because he had a different business that he started that was making him more money. And I was able to get that business from him just because he was almost throwing that business on me, paying him the business purchase price over a period of time. And that's really, I think, was the first time I was like, okay, that was interesting. And I didn't really pay much attention to it back then because I was, when you're a busy business owner, an entrepreneur, you're just focused on hustling and working hard just to make sure that the business is not going to collapse. So that was my focus. One of that app in that ecosystem of apps that I had became top 100 app in the App Store. It was pretty incredible being around some of the top apps out there. I was probably one of the first users when it comes to Facebook ads. So that was really, really able to help me. Facebook ads when it comes to advertising to mobile. So that really helped us to grow massively and almost having an arbitrage between Facebook ads that were really cheap and profit that came from the apps. And that started the momentum to just, again, building my network. A lot of my first deals just came from a network that I built because I was an entrepreneur. People started to reach out to me. I started to reach out to people. I started to network a lot. I liked events a lot. And I guess that's accidentally or not led me to where I'm at right now.
So an accidental acquisitions. And then one day you bought the domain acquisitions.com. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. Talk to us about the story there because that's a phenomenal domain, right? That's a pretty good buy.
Yeah. Let's just say that I used my understanding and experience in buying and selling domains. I didn't buy that domain like many years ago. I mean, I started my first businesses like almost 15 years ago. So that the acquisitions.com domain was basically me buying that domain in like 2.5, 3 years ago. And that's the thing, when I was able to buy it, that was almost like, I don't want to be too woo-woo here or spiritual and whatnot, but that for me was like almost a sign from the universe, call it, that I'm like, okay, this is my place. If I was able to get a domain like that, I guess there's some kind of a sign here that I probably need to put some focus on this, because there's not, it's you don't have an opportunity to get access to such a domain every day. And the negotiation, I mean, the deal was pretty straightforward. I think the biggest thing that happened in that deal that we can learn from is just that it took some time and just a lot of back and forth until we reached a number in terms that made sense for us.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So when you were selling flowers, let's go back to you in the street selling flowers was it in Israel when you were doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're selling flowers and you're making pretty good money for 16-year-old, 16, 17, 18-year-old. And then you had to go into the military. And you said one of the things that you learned is you didn't really have a business. You had a job, right? So explain to us some of the things that you've learned there that now helps you in acquisitions, in acquisition entrepreneurship, and buying all these businesses. What did you learn there that helps you here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I realized that you need a lot of good people to build a good business. You don't have a business that randomly find people. You need to find great people that will build a great business. And I didn't really have that. I had random, call it freelancers, that worked with me every now and then, and no one was really incentivized to grow the business, right? Like I don't want to go into specifically how we paid some of those. Be like we were just a bunch of kids basically out there doing arbitrage of flowers, buying a lot of flowers for cheap and selling them for a bit for a higher price. And I think that, going back to the lessons, I think the biggest lessons is, look, in the end of the day, to have a legit business, the first thing you got to find out is you got to make sure that what you're doing is working, right? So that's, I would say, for any business from 0 to, let's say, 1 million a year in revenues, what you're doing got to work. But then from 1 million above, then it's all about who you do it with and how you do it. And those are the main things that I missed, right? I didn't know who are the right people to hire. I didn't know how to incentivize them. What are the processes and systems we need to have? How to keep everyone accountable? How to make sure that everyone is aligned to some kind of a vision that maybe is bigger than just like, hey, let's make money, right? Like the biggest businesses in the world nowadays have a much bigger vision that an employee can get connected with, and he feels like he have a reason to wake up and go to work. So I think some of those things are probably the main things that differentiate a random hobby and a business that can scale.
Yeah.
And of course, I can talk about some of those things forever, but I would say I would start with some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you went in the military, you were working with the government, and then you said afterwards you got a few jobs and you got fired from the job. So, entrepreneur through and through, like me. I did some government work, and then I tried to get some corporate jobs. Just was not a fit. At what point did you really realize that you're an entrepreneur and you weren't set for to work in government long term or corporate America or
Yeah,
corporate
it's funny.
Israel?
Yeah, I don't think I ever talked about it with anyone like online, but it was actually in an experience. So in Israel, if you want to go to learn in university, you need to go through some kind of a test, which is kind of like SAT in the US.
Hmm.
And I had to go through some kind of a boot camp to learn towards that test. Right now, while I was going, the only reason I went there, by the way, is because my mom forced me. She's like, "You gotta have that." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Okay, I'll go that so my mom will be happy." And after around about 2 weeks in that boot camp, I was already working on kind of my business. And I remember like one of the days, I saw I was making like $500 a day profits. The next day also like 500, $600 a day profits. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like it just makes no sense. Just makes no sense. I don't know if I can curse here, but it's like, I'm putting probably the same amount of effort in my business and in that SAT test, and I'm so much more excited about the business.
Yeah.
I'm making good money. I also back then thought that every website that will be ranking high on Google will stay there forever. That was kind of like my attitude back then, being young. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make passive income for life. It's just gonna stay there. So my mindset was like, I'm making $500 a day. It's gonna stay here forever. I just need to continue and do that, and I'll be a billionaire in no time. Why do I need to study? So that's kind of like, I'd say the moment was, I was like, okay, I'm not going back. There's no way. I'm not, like, this is my path.
Yeah. And what did mom say, right? So when you're like, Mom, I'm going to be building businesses, I'm buying and selling domains, and, I moved from flowers to domains to businesses. What does mom say?
So, so at first she definitely didn't like it, but then when she saw the amount of money that's coming in, and I mean, I love my mom, but like compared to what she was making, it's kind of like, okay, how are you making that? Is it legal? What's going on here? And then it's kind of like the tone definitely went down. She was still very much worried for a few years after, but it's more about, hey, what are you doing to protect yourself and whatnot. But I think when my mom saw money coming in, and eventually I was also able to help my mom, then that's, at that point it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll let this guy go. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur through and through. I tried government, tried corporate, and I've been fired from jobs. I'm just like, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I have no other choice but to go build stuff with people and for myself. I have no backup plan. That is it, right?
Exactly.
So yeah. So with that, you were buying domains, you came on a accidental acquisition of an app company, agency, and then one of the apps went top of charts, right? And you had this opportunity, you know, through all your initial things. What was the one thing that kind of gave you the momentum in terms of capital that you could start thinking bigger, from being tactically in a business to thinking maybe I should buy additional businesses? What was that moment?
It's a good question. I don't think I ever made the switch, to be honest. I still believe that I need to know a bit about everything, to be completely honest. And I'll tell you even more than that. Like, I met a few billionaires in my life, like face to face, having conversation with them. And I can give you an example. One of the richest Israeli billionaires out there that I met, and he owns hundreds of businesses. When I had a conversation with him, it's fascinating. He knows details about the business up to the like cost per lead and cost to acquire customers on a
Wow.
random specific business. Now, I'm not saying that it's healthy, but when I think those are some of the lessons that I learned over the years, and I'm still like that, kind of like almost like a free control, where I gotta not necessarily do things myself, sorry, but I need to at least know what's up.
Yeah. So from that moment, so that's really interesting. And I've met some people like that before who have hundreds of businesses or properties or all this stuff, and they're able to tell you the details of every single one. Now, me personally, I can't retain that much information about the details of business. I could do that with people. Like I remember facts about people and things about people. But for me, let's just say there's people like me in the audience, and they're going, I'm considering this acquisition thing, buying businesses, but maybe I'm not the best at details. Like, do you have people in your community, people like me, who can still be successful buying and growing businesses?
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, I don't consider myself as someone who's good at details,
Yeah.
but I do consider myself as someone who just care about everything in the process. I do believe that in the end of the day, I'm look at some point, if you have too much or too many businesses or large enough operations, you just can't do everything, right? So in fact, it's actually better if you're not the best in small details, because then you might be more inclined to let go of responsibilities faster and let others do those things. Because if you are someone who care too much about the nuances and you're like a perfectionist, you're like, okay, I want to do everything. And that's actually one of the biggest struggles that I see with people that want to buy businesses. If they're an existing business owner, for example, and they want to grow by acquisitions, the biggest struggle that I see people having is the shift that they need to make in their perspective from someone who's working in the business to someone who's working on the business. And it's so difficult, and as weird as it sounds, it can feel sometimes almost like a mental suicide, because you need to let go of so many things you're used to do. And it's kind of like being fit and staying in shape. Someone who's like overweight, they're usually overweight because they think differently about health, fitness, nutrition, and things like that. And it's not until that they think differently about that world that their body follows, and then they change. Same here with businesses. I find out that to be good in this space, you gotta think like that person you want to be already. Think like the investor, like the deal maker. And then when you're at that state, start to make decisions from that place. And you'll understand that you just gotta leverage your time more. You gotta go out there and find people who can do some of those day-to-day tasks better. I'm like you in that sense. I don't like to do anything that is repeatable. I'm getting bored really fast, but I try to make the most out of it by doing my best to find people who can do those things much better than me, and then will allow me to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like you too. Like I'm a little bit of a control freak, and what I've learned, especially after I started having kids and then I have multiple businesses, I'm like I get burnt out, man. I get so like caught up in all the details. So then I have to hand off things. I have to get rid of things. But there's a book that I read recently. It's called like Who Not What. And we wake up as entrepreneurs, sometimes we wake up and we're like, what do I need to do today? And the book kind of is trying to teach me to change my mindset to who do I need to get to do this what over here. As you've gone through your process, you've built some, an amazing things. You built this community of acquisition entrepreneurs, and as you're building, what's a mindset shift that you're evolving into? Because you've done a lot of business, successes. Where are you currently at in terms of mindset evolution?
I love it. It's a great question, because it's making me think. It's a great question. And I think that it comes down to, it's funny, it's kind of like I'm giving the advice that I need to give to myself, which is, don't be afraid to go bigger. Like, the deals that we're doing in the small business world and the structures and creativity that we have are basically the same type of deals that you see that are being done in the billion-dollar levels.
Yeah.
So I know that for me, that's where I want to take what I'm doing. I want to take things to the next level. And I'm seeing that with colleagues of mine. Like, I have a colleague, a friend that I helped with a few things with his business. He went public on NASDAQ in like 2.5 years, from zero to NASDAQ in 2.5 years, basically doing acquisitions and doing exactly the things that we're doing daily, but he just was willing to just jump into the water to do it at a bigger scale with larger deals. And I think for me, hopefully that's the next level.
That's awesome, man. Don't be afraid to go bigger. It's scary though, right? Especially if you've had a deal gone south, right? So let's do this. Favorite deal you've ever done, worst deal you've ever done.
Um, and I don't know if I can call them worse, but I had different businesses that I had to shut down, right? For different reasons. For example, I had a business that I bought that was very similar to BuzzFeed. For those who are familiar with BuzzFeed, it's kind of like and again, that was like after the app, after I realized everything about the Facebook ads world, and I had a great team that was really helping me to scale things in there. So we bought this media company that was basically doing arbitrage between Facebook ads and viral random images or videos or articles that basically had lots of ads on the website. And 99%, 100% basically of our revenues came from Google AdSense.
Mm.
So, I mean, we paid money for that business, and eventually we just had to shut it down because AdSense shut down our account. And we had like 7-figure amount in there that was basically gone. And imagine also the fact that Facebook back then, I believe it's they used to pay you like 60 days um, after you get your payments. And I mean, right, you have I mean, you need to pay your team, you need to pay everyone else, all your suppliers and whatnot. So that wasn't fun. So that's I think that's definitely a big lesson also that I learned, the fact that if you're buying a business, make sure that the business is not dependent on just one revenue source, for example, right? Because it's very fragile. And so that's why I don't like to call it bad, because I learned a lot, right? And now when I'm looking at deals, I can very fast make a decision. Okay, do I want to do this or that? And I'm not saying that you don't need to buy businesses if you only have one revenue source, but you need to definitely put it into consideration when you're making an offer on a business, and just make sure that there is an adjustment based on those terms. So that's kind of like a deal that I would say wasn't good, but I learned a lot. Yeah. Then if you, so you want to talk about kind of like a good one that I liked, I think what I like the most, maybe I can talk about an agency that I bought in Canada. So I think it was pretty cool because I bought it and sold it really fast.
Yeah.
And when you're making like a, let's say 7-figure, to your pocket after taxes, then, and you're making it in kind of like overall less than 2 years from buying it to selling it and making that amount of profits, I think it's a nice win. Right now we're working on super exciting deals that I really enjoy working on as well, which are more of doing roll-up plays, like I mentioned, right? So that's exciting. Like the idea of that's, you ask me what's the next step. For me, that's the next step. Like instead of being all over the place, is to go deep on different sectors and really make the most out of it. So again, going back to the big guys, some of the biggest companies out there in the world are basically just a combination of hundreds, if not thousands, of small companies. Like the biggest marketing agency in the world right now is basically a combination of thousands of companies. It's WPP. And it's basically, they are buying agencies like the agency I had, but they just sticked with that same business model for so many years. Same goes with trucking company. I think the largest, if not the largest company, XPO, is a trucking company that's basically doing billions of dollars. I'm talking like 13 billion a year in revenues. And all they're doing is they're going out there and buying companies that we our networking clients are buying every day. So my goal right now, I think, is to really go deep on those different sectors that I have access to and create those roll-ups and hopefully take one of them public sooner or later.
Very cool. So I just turned 40 this year at the time of this recording. Actually, it was last year. Holy moly. All right. So I'm 40. Are you older or younger than me?
I'm younger.
Okay. Got it. How old are you? I should just ask you that.
Yeah, all good. I'm 33.
Okay. So 30.
About to be 34 in a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
in a 1.5 month. Yes.
Hey, happy birthday. If you come to Florida, I'll
Yeah.
celebrate with you.
There you go.
All right. So you and I are, let's just say 40 years from now. All right. I'm 80, you're 73, and we're sitting on a front porch in Florida, beautiful Florida. Or maybe I come visit you in Israel, but we're sitting there, we're having a cocktail and we're having a conversation and we go, we did it, right? What does that success look like? Was it I've bought 1,000 companies, I took a few companies public, I'm a billionaire, I'm a trillionaire. Like, what does success look like to you when you're 73?
I love it. It's such a great question. And thank you for asking it. Actually, it's a beautiful question, because I'm trying to ask myself that question every day. But when I'm being asked that question by you, I'm almost being forced to give it a good answer to myself as well. So when I'm 70, what success looks like to me, I think that by then, a lot of it will be focused on actually the people that you have around you, if it's family, friends, and hopefully a lot of those people, family and friends, are maybe people that I'm also working or work with and helped creating a lot of value to, right? I'd love to see me still doing acquisitions. Then actually one of my quality mentor and friend here is in his 70s, and he just bought a company 2 weeks ago. and I see his lifestyle, and it's the closest thing to something that I really can look up to and say, this is cool. He got a great wife. He's constantly surrounded by friends and family. He's constantly traveling the best places. He probably created thousands of multi-millionaires just by working with him. And is really, I think, is the, for me, is kind of like the vision of someone who's enjoying life, adding a lot of value, surrounded by people he loves and loves him. And he's just enjoying life. He's also drinking a lot of wine, which is cool at the age of 70.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I might have had a little bit too much last night. What do you drink wine or cocktails?
So actually, he's teaching me a lot about wine right now. So every time I go to a lunch or dinner with him, there's no way that there won't be a bottle or two of wines on the table. So he taught me a lot about like Bordeaux wines and stuff like that. I'm probably, like, if you ask me questions, I'm very bad at it. But I know that he's forcing us to drink good wines. If you ask me specific questions, I will not
Yeah.
know anything.
Well, my wife's the expert in my family, but I prefer red versus white. I like something not as sweet.
Yeah, so when we drink together, it's only red. Like
Okay.
it is almost laughing at people are drinking white. It's almost like white wine. Yeah, sometimes you have to do it because you're being forced by someone else. But yeah, 99% it's red. Yeah,
Very cool. So when I come on over there, we'll get a bottle together and we'll drink
I'd
some red
love to.
wine.
Man. Yeah,
That sounds perfect. All right, so let's go back to military days, right? So you're 18 and you had this job selling flowers, essentially, right? And you're a part of your duty, being in Israel, you have to serve, right? So you're going, oh no, I got to serve for 3 years. Like, what did you learn in the military that has helped you become what you are today?
um, first of all, that life can be very short. But then for the good things, I would say it's also a good thing. I think it's probably the most important, one of the most important lessons someone can learn as fast as possible. A lot of discipline, the fact that you can progress in things by doing them a lot, even if you don't necessarily enjoy doing them, because you are being forced. I learned that I don't like to be enforced and being told what to do. Um, I'd say those are like the immediate things that I can really mention, but you just grow up so fast when you go through the military. You're just being forced to grow as a person. I think that that's awesome. So it's kind of like one of those things that you're happy that you went through, but if I had a choice, man, I don't know, perhaps I would prefer to go out there and party in a college or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Were you a badass back then? Like, if we looked at like some pictures, were you like shredded or like a Rambo, like big muscles, carrying big guns?
I mean, I was always kind of like, I was never fat. I don't want to say like I'm comparing myself to what's possible out there, and I'm definitely not on the high end. I was always kind of like in a good shape. I was always kind of like a bit of an athlete when I was young as well. I tried to be a soccer player when I was young. Like tried to be a professional, so I was always kind of like in shape. But yeah, I can't. I'm not that cool. I'm not Rambo. Definitely not.
Sounds good. All right. So you bought you accidentally bought a business, kind of like landed you into this acquisition space. You bought this domain acquisitions.com, you became the founder of this, and then you created a community and a training program to teach other entrepreneurs to buy businesses, right? To buy and sell businesses. Like, how did that get started where you said one day I need to teach this to other people rather than just do it for yourself?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of things in life, it's almost accidentally, right? You just stumble upon almost, you've seen opportunities and you're just jumping on them. So I just started doing YouTube videos because one of my friends was on YouTube and it just brought him a lot of, actually a lot of opportunities. Not necessarily, he wasn't selling any programs and whatnot. He was just getting tons of opportunities just from putting himself out there. And he was a close friend of mine. So one day I just went with him to one of his shooting days, and I was just shooting like few videos in that one day. And I was like, let's post it and see what people will say. And that happened. So I posted a few videos. Then I got great comments just from people in my network. After that, I started posting like audio podcasts as well. And it just grew organically to start with. And my goal was just like, hey, let's build my network, because I know most of the deals that I've done before I built my network were all from my network. So I thought, what if I could build a larger network? I mean, there's nothing to lose. I enjoy talking about those things. Like, it's one of those things that you don't have a lot of people to talk to. And it's almost like when I was able to build that community, it's almost like people are, kind of like spending their time listening to me talking about acquisitions. Like, no one from my friends was willing to listen to me about acquisitions. No one cared about it. So that's how it starts. To answer your question, that's kind of how it started. Organically it grew. I started my YouTube channel. Then just people started to ask me for tons of advice, right? And that's how it slowly began. I was just like, okay, if they're asking me to do it, let's do it for them. And right now, the way that I position in my program is I try to do it in the fairest way possible. So what I'm telling people is, look, in the end of the day, I get at this point hundreds of messages each month from people that want to work with me. They're like, Moran, teach me, let me pick your brain and whatnot. And I mean, with all due respect, there's a limit to how much I can do. So the way that I position it right now is, look, I'd love to teach you everything that I know. Put a deposit to join my accelerator to learn everything that I know. And then if you allow us to invest alongside you with our fund or syndicate, we will refund your money as soon as we close the deal together. So basically you put a deposit and we keep you accountable to make sure that you're out there and actually want to close the deal. And that's kind of like how I try to do it right now. Anyway, I'm ranting here. Hopefully I'm answering your question.
No, I think that's super helpful. So you kind of your friend was on YouTube, and you're like, hey, maybe I should be on YouTube too. Uh, are you naturally extroverted or introverted? Which you?
I would say I'm an introvert. Like I definitely like to have a lot of me time, kind of like just being quiet and me and my books.
Yeah.
But I
Which
can be
is
extroverted for sure. I can definitely be it's kind of like in the past, I tried to put a kind of like to make a decision if I'm this or that. I found out in the end of the day, it's almost like now my belief is right now that I can be both, and I'm a bit of both. Because when I'm with my friends, I'm the most extroverted ever. Like when I'm with people, I'm the person who won't shut up. But it's not, when I'm saying that I'm an introverted, I would say it's not the place where I'm taking and renewing my energy from.
yeah.
Not around people. I'm not renewing. I think that's the biggest difference between extroverted. They're getting their energy from people.
Hmm.
Introverted, I need, after a lot of time with people, I need my quiet time. I need to run away from everyone.
Yeah. What do you do on your quiet time? Besides quiet, right? But what does that typically? How do you recharge?
Yeah, good questions. I have a lot of routines and habits that I'm constantly changing and trying to optimize, to be honest. That's kind of like probably one of the things that I'm most obsessed with. It's kind of like my day-to-day ritual and what it looks like from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. And I have different things that I try to do that recharge me throughout the day. So it can be, and it really depends. So every month, if you'll talk to me today, it's going to be a very different ritual than what I had like a year ago. So right now, I'm doing cold showers. I'm doing like things like the Wim Hof breathing stuff. If you talk to me a year ago, I've done a lot of Joe Dispenza meditations. So I used to do one or two, or sometimes even three of his meditations every day. And some of his meditations are like 30, 40, 1 hour meditations. I work out. I'm trying to work out, do at least something every day. I'm not telling you that I'm perfect, but I have it on my schedule. So at least during the weekdays, I'm trying to be consistent. Um, so how else do I recharge? Sometimes I'm blessed to live here in front of the ocean. So sometimes just sitting in front of it and just drinking a cup of coffee or tea, or I'm also obsessed with anything earpods. So you won't find me not listening to something. If it's a podcast or a book, I probably have 1,000 plus books on my Audible. Um, I almost see it like reading articles at this point. It's just like I see something that I'm curious about, I'm just buying it. Those are some of the things I would say, but to summarize it and keep it simple, I do at least once or twice a day things that will take me out of my head and make me think less, right? Things like working out, cold showers, meditations, things like that.
Yeah. Well, you could have those cold showers. I do not like cold water unless I'm drinking it. Um, why did you?
I'm I'm I hate it.
I do
I
too. I do
freaking
too.
hate it, man. But I can tell you this, I found out that after I'm going into a cold shower, it's almost like I meditated for 30 minutes or an hour. That's why I
Really?
think it's so powerful. I had every second of it. And it's almost like I'm reading every time after I do a cold shower, I try to read again, kind of like what are the benefits of doing a cold shower. Um, yeah, especially now because here it's kind of pretty cold. Like, yeah, I will only do it like after a workout when the house is like super warm and I'm like going in and going out in a minute. But
Yeah.
yeah, I hear you. It's not fun.
Not fun. Not fun. So if we look through your Audible on your phone, what book would you say has been the most instrumental in your personal development?
Let's check it out. So just one of them, I can go through a list of them. So
Give us a
if
few.
I had
Give us
to,
a few.
yeah. So I mean, here's the thing, I I don't believe in just one at this point because it's like I went through like right now who I heard this quote back in the day that says like you are in 5 years you're going to be the combination of the friends you have around you and the books you read. So that's kind of like I have like 960 titles in my Audible. It's pretty ridiculous actually now that I'm thinking about it. So the latest book I'm reading right now, so Tony Robbins just got a book about health and stuff like that, Life Force. I just bought it yesterday, so I started going through that. It's pretty cool, like going through how to stay young and whatnot, things like stem cell and stuff like that. But I mean, so I can give you probably a few books from different categories. So let's say self-help. Um, what I really liked, man, I can give you so many books, but the question is, I would ask you. So what I would like to do is probably ask the person, what challenges are you going through right now? And based on that, I could probably recommend a book.
Yeah.
That would probably be my answer on, hey, what book you recommend to me?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the evolutions that I'm going through right now is I'm having to learn to be more of a leader because I've been a solopreneur for a long time and now I'm starting to have a team. I have kids now, and it's not just about me, right? So leadership is something that I'm feeling like God's stretching me to, and it's hurting a little bit. So leadership, one thing, and then also mindset, like um, stepping into my strengths and then also being confident in those strengths and trusting in that. So those are some of the things that I'm personally working on. What are some of the things that you read that might be a good recommendation there?
Love it. So leadership is everything in John Maxwell. Like
Yeah.
you have the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. That's like his main one. Um, and then you said on a personal one, to go into your power, which one I like. So that's on the business side of things you're saying
Uh yeah,
mostly,
I
or
love
just
reading business books.
I think, oh man, there's so many. I think traction is really good if you didn't go through this, just to, or for everyone who's listening to it, just to understand maybe different roles in a business.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like it definitely can open someone's mind to understand, okay, or anyone who's listening to this, do you see yourself more as a visionary, or more of as a, they call it an integrator, kind of like a COO, someone who's okay doing repeatable tasks. I think that's really powerful. And I think with what you're saying, find out what you're enjoying. I think that asking the right questions is also this, for something like this, is as powerful as good books. So I like to tell people to ask themselves, and I'm trying to ask myself those questions a lot. Like, what would you do if you were the richest person in the world, right? What would you do? What
Mm.
would you do if you had? I don't like the what would you do if you had one day to live, because then I don't know, if I had one day to live, I'd probably go and see people that I love and just drink a lot of wine or something. But what would you do? What would you do if you knew you had 10 years to live? What would you do then? Um, if if in 10 years from now you're going to be on the cover of Forbes magazine, what would you like that cover to say about you? Who
Mm.
are you? What businesses you own? What sector that business is going to be in? What kind of impact you had in the world? Um, what would you do if I told you right now, you're only able to make, I don't know, a basic income every year that will support you and your family for food, shelter, but that's it. You want to live like very normally, and you can never make any extra dollar at all. Like you're gonna have like, I don't know, whatever your base expenses every year, and you're gonna make it for the rest of your life, and there's no way you can go up. What would you do just for the sake of doing it, for the sake of fun, for the sake of enjoying the process? Because you can't make more money. What would you do then? Right. So I think a
Wow.
lot of those questions
That's a good
are super
question.
powerful. It is, yeah.
That's a good question because the questions that people ask me on my show or whatever is like, if you won the lottery today, what would you do? And that's a good question too.
Yeah.
If money were insignificant, what would you do with your time besides sit around, drink all day, play some golf? Eventually, if you're an entrepreneur, a true deal maker, you're going to get back in the game some level, right?
Yeah.
But I like the question is like, if you were capped out, right? So you can't have excess, no surplus, the basics for the rest of your life covered. What would you then do? What about you? What would you do? All right. So you're capped out at 40 grand for the rest of your life, right? What would you do in the moment?
So I want to say that I'm already doing it right now. So what
Wow.
I'm doing right now, I'm trying to answer it in the most really congruent and honest way possible, because I'm asking that question a lot of time to myself. So it's probably what I'm doing right now, because it's a combination of things that I'm excited about. It's a combination of me making an impact. Um, and to be honest, like the business model when we started, like I had so many better opportunities when it comes to making more money. And I can tell you, I have friends and colleagues who are constantly trying to like take me to do things that they're doing that are like, you want to see quick money. Like I've seen some incredible quick money in those last few years, especially when it comes to different financial sectors and crypto and whatnot. I've seen incredible opportunities that I just had to skip because I wanted to focus. So what I'm doing right now is definitely not just for money. I know that, and I would probably do that if I was the richest person in the world and if I had nothing, because I don't know what else you got to do. Like it's fun. It's my game. It's my infinite game. I think it's a great book actually as well. There's two books actually by the same name, Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and there's another, I think the name is also Infinite Game by another, I forgot, I can check it real quick, but those are also great books just to, yeah, finite and infinite games. It's also a great book just to also go back to that mindset of what would you do if the game is going to be infinite and you can't make an extra dollar, you're going to make the same amount of money, you're going to play it for life. What would you do?
Yeah, so good. Now you mentioned the book Traction, Gino Wickman and the group EOS Worldwide. Great book. My buddy runs that organization, and it is so impactful. So I love that recommendation. I'm gonna take a look for Infinite Game. Do you remember who wrote it?
So there's
Simon Sinek.
the Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and
Okay.
there's a second book which is, I think, yeah, the second book is Finite and Infinite Games by James Kerrs.
Okay.
Kerrs, however you pronounce it.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me ask you this question, right? So you're always listening to something, so you're probably an audible learner. Like that's how you learn, that's how you process information
Yeah.
and details. If we were able to, since you love to listen things, I assume you like music, right?
Yeah, I love the music, but I prefer to, so I mean I would definitely listen to music, but I'm trying to listen to as little as I can. So you won't find me, if you'll find, so 90% of my day, you won't find me listening to the music. I might
Right.
listen to music every now and then just to another way to actually unwind and relax and recharge.
Yep.
But usually I'm like, I'll try to be on it and listen to something that might be productive. And again, I think it's just another crazy entrepreneurial thing that you have, that you're always kind of like in a chasing mode for
Yeah.
nowhere basically. But
I get it. I get
it's
it.
kind of like the attitude.
But
Yeah.
if I catch you on that 1%, What's
Uh,
one of your go-to songs? Like if I scrolled through your playlist, what's one of your go-to songs that just always puts you in the right mindset, the right mood?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So I'll open my Spotify. So I think it's also I'm one of those people that I can find one song that I like and I will just listen to it for like, kind of like 20 times in a row.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like me. So right now I'm listening to just different techno stuff. There's a guy, Christian Loeffler. I think that's how you pronounce it. I love his stuff lately. It's kind of like just a very techno, kind of like psychedelic vibe that he got to him.
Yeah.
That's my go-to guy right now, I would say.
Very cool. All right, back to the deal side of things. When someone's coming through, acquisitions and the training that they get to work with you, be a part of the community, right? What are some of the topics that people could expect to learn from being a part of your group?
Yeah, so I would say it's starting with, so first of all, I would say in a nutshell, it's A to Z on how to buy a business from zero to buying a business doing at least 1 million a year in revenues. So it's from how to position yourself as a buyer, as a credible buyer. Then it's what team do you need, how to build a team. Then it's about how to build your pipeline of deal flow. Then it's all about how to structure and analyze those deals and what kind of structures you can have, how to make offers, how to negotiate, how to finance deals, if it's equity, debt, mezzanine, cash flow, all those different um, options. What kind of terms you need to have on the deal. I don't know. And again, I don't want to overwhelm here, but what clauses you need to have, what kind of due diligence you need to do, if it's financial, legals. And then we even go through everything when it comes to, okay, after you bought the business, how do you integrate everything? How do you make sure that you optimize everything, sales, marketing, operations, finance, people, HR, your vision, your values? What did I miss? Then how do you prepare to exit? So how do you timing for exit, so you get the maximum multiples? um, how do you manage your employees and incentivize them? How do you make sure you create alignment in your culture, right? So I believe that nowadays it's not enough to just be a good deal maker. You need to be a good businessman. So as soon as you buy the business, you want to make sure that you're not collapsing it. So a lot of the work is also about how you go in there and do your assessment and then kind of like planning everything, operations, and just trying to be the best business that you can. So that's in a nutshell.
Very cool. So let's just say you and I are going to do a deal together. What is your superpower that you're going to bring to the table in our partnership?
Good question. um, I would say so. Most people that come to me, they just want support with everything acquisitions, right? So how to structure deals, how to negotiate deals, where to bring the money, what kind of terms to have when it comes to money with investors, with banks, how to even talk to a bank or an investor, um, how to position yourself when you talk to a business owner, right? To make sure that they're taking you, first of all, seriously as a credible buyer, but then that they're not intimidated by you and they're looking at you as someone who's perhaps a safe pair of hands, not someone who's going to destroy the business. Because there are horror stories out there about people thinking they're going to sell their business, but then someone who's looking to buy them are just stealing their employees and IP and whatnot. So um, my superpower would be to just give you that full picture and making sure that you're not making critical mistakes that a lot of them have done in the past, and hopefully you're just moving things faster. And I would say another thing, a lot of it just comes down to certainty. I will give you certainty that what you're doing is working or not working. And I think for all of us, even for me as an entrepreneur, one of the, I think, the things that is holding us back the most is just lack of certainty and clarity for what we really want. And when we're not clear, when we're not certain, and we're overwhelmed and we're confused, we always fail.
Hmm.
100% of the time, if we're confused, we fail and we act stupid. So I think that's the value of having someone around you been there, done that, because they'll give you clarity and certainty, and they'll simplify the version, the experience for you. And that's probably the most valuable thing you can get from I'm not talking about myself, but I'm talking about in general. I'm talking about working with someone who kind of like been there, done that, and went through the process and can tell you, hey man, be careful. Like take a bit left, a bit right, and just simplify the process to the minimum things possible.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. All right. So I've got a few cards here that have questions on it. All right. So
Cool.
I'm gonna kind of move the way through the cards, and when you tell me to stop, I'm gonna read the question to you.
All right. Stop.
All right.
This is cool.
All right. Which day in your life do you wish? This is kind of a deep question, man. Which day in your life do you wish you can either redo or erase from history, and why?
Oof. Wow, it
That's a
is deep.
tough one, right?
It is a tough one. And I'm not sure if I want to share some of those too in the podcast.
Yeah. So we could skip it. We could pull an audible, or you could go for it. What do you want to do?
Erase, or what was the second option?
You could either erase or replace or redo.
Hmm.
So erase, replace, or redo.
Wow. I mean, if I had to replace or redo, it's simple, always possible. Just, replace or redo days where I just lost friends, for example,
Hmm.
in the military, right? That's definitely that's an easy answer, but it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, that is absolutely tough. And I don't control these questions in there, but I love bringing these up because it gets to know the deal maker a little bit more. Um, as you're going through this, man, for people who have lost friends in the military, I was on the firefighter side, firefighter medic, and I've lost a few buddies. But let's do this, man. Let's just do a moment of silence for the buddies that you've lost, and for the people that I've lost, and for the people in the audience who have lost someone through service. So hold on one second. Yeah, man, I just want to honor you and honor the people who have put their life on the line to serve and to help other people, and who didn't make it out, but we did, right? So, um, Moran, as we're going through this conversation together, and we're talking about deals and acquisitions, and getting to know some personal sides of you, and which I'm thrilled to do. I love this. I love my job. Uh, what is a question that I probably should have asked you in this interview about deals or acquisitions, or about your personal life that I screwed up and I didn't ask?
Should ask me if I was in your shoes. Good question, man. I don't know. I don't think I'm that interested, man. My life is pretty at this point, it's pretty boring and straightforward, man. Like I probably went through a phase of my life where, or maybe you could have asked me that actually. What did you do when you had money? And I would tell you that I went through a rampage of traveling and whatnot. Like I visited so many places. At some point in my life, I didn't have a house for more than like 6 years. For about 6 years, I didn't have a home for more than 3 months. So I moved
Wow.
around constantly between cities and countries. But now, after going through all that, it's almost like my attitude about life right now is kind of like I just, for the first time in my life, it's kind of like I feel like that in the last 2 years actually, since kind of COVID started, that it's like I realized that it's like kind of like wherever you are, what's this sentence, kind of like wherever you go there you are, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's kind of like looking for all the fulfillment that you want internally and with the things that you do to impact, and not necessarily thinking that it's somewhere in the external world in a different, I don't know, city or party or relationship or whatnot. So it's kind of
Nah.
like, yeah.
That's a huge self discovery. So my daughter is 8. I have an 8, 4, and a 2-year old kid.
Wow.
My daughter's 8. She's lived in 8 different homes. Okay. Right. So being an entrepreneur, I've, bounced around in Florida, Dallas, New York, Orlando, and bounced around. I think and a part of my journey is I was chasing and running from a few things. And like, like what you just said is I'm learning to, and I think I had to go through this process of being content wherever that I am, that's where I am kind of thing. Um, so let's do this. Let me ask you, what's a piece of advice that you have for other people like you and I who are, you know, hard driving, highly driven people who want to make an impact, want to do a bunch of deals. We love the game. What's a piece of advice for people like us?
Just enjoy playing the game. Do your best. Do your best. Forget the rest. As cheesy
Yeah.
as it sounds, it's kind of like, I mean, yeah, and I mean, we can talk about it for hours, right? But there's only so many things you can control. Focus on what you can control. Try to do your best to make an impact. Because I found that the more I'm focused on making an impact and helping others, then I'm getting back 10 times forward. So forget about yourself. Almost be selfless. Being selfless is the most selfish thing you can do. I would say
Ooh,
that.
that's awesome. So, Moran, where could people go, fellow deal makers, where could people go to learn more about you, connect with you, and do a deal with you?
Yeah, probably acquisitions.com is our site, the best place. Or just email me directly. I'm more than happy to. Just my name. I mean, yeah, just my name at acquisitions.
Very
Feel
cool.
free.
Very cool. And we'll put all that contact information in the show notes below. So, fellow deal makers, as you're listening into this interview, my request is that you always reach out to our guests and say, hey, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. And find a way to do a deal with our fellow deal makers. That's the purpose, mission of this podcast show. So, if you're working on a deal or would like to talk about a deal on the show, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. Till then, talk to you all on the next episode. See you, everybody.